Welcome to today's webinar. A Pharmacist Prescription for Bringing in New Customers is presented by Brittany Brown with Innovation Compounding. Brittany serves as the Senior Marketing Manager at Innovation Compounding. She is responsible for overseeing projects through all phases of the creative process, from idea creation and brainstorming to execution and implementation. These include web marketing, social media, email communications, direct mail, events, podcasts, and webinars. Today's webinar is accredited through ACPE and is worth 1 CE credit hour. CE credit is applied following completion of an evaluation link found on the last slide in the presentation handout. You can find the handout on the lower portion of the GoToWebinar toolbox under Handouts. We are recording this session today and will include the recording and evaluation link in a follow-up email. Questions may be submitted throughout the webinar using the GoToWebinar toolbox on the right side of your screen under the Questions tab. We will answer the questions submitted following the presentation. If we do not get to your question today, a list of questions and answers will be emailed to all attendees following the webinar. Thank you for joining today's session.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So the pharmaceutical industry is one of the most highly regulated industries in the United States. And your role as a pharmacist or pharmacy technician is to ensure that patients receive safe and effective medications, therapies, but also to help them understand how they can prevent drug interactions. You have an enormous impact on your patient outcomes, and your ability to provide expert advice on medications, including what they're for, how they work, the potential side effects or adverse reactions, is the expertise that allows providers and your patients to make informed decisions about their health without any hesitation or confusion. So why are we in a webinar about marketing? Well, it's no secret to you that a pharmacist's role is actually one of the most important and influential roles in healthcare. Pharmacists are key members of the marketing team in any pharmacy. And this is because as a pharmacist, you're really the first person that your patients see when they walk into your pharmacy. And when providers have questions, they're going to reach out to you as an ally and a partner in the care of their patients. You're the front line of customer contact. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about how you can view yourself and your day-to-day interactions with providers and patients through the lens of marketing, to use the knowledge and the skills that you already have to promote your pharmacy across the many channels of marketing available to you. Our learning objectives for this presentation are to assess your pharmacy strengths, define your audience and message, prioritize these marketing channels, and show how you can capitalize on connection. Few assumptions that we're going to make here. As I've stated, the bulk of your day is not spent making marketing plans or building websites or churning up content for social media, but rather you may be behind the counter, consulting with clinicians or doing research, managing the operations of your pharmacy. In other words, marketing is not your primary job function. But as we've already stated, as a pharmacist, you're a front line of communication for your pharmacy. And when talking with providers and addressing the needs of patients, I want you to be mindful that every interaction you have is shaping a person's perception of your pharmacy. This, in essence, is what we call your brand. A leader in authority in marketing, Seth Godin, says it this way: a brand is a set of expectations, memories, stories, relationships that take together an account for a customer's decision to choose one product or service over the other. Okay, so just keep this in mind, that the interactions that others have with you, a pharmacist, are equally, if not more, responsible for making sure that the world knows and understands the benefits of working with you and wants to remain loyal to your pharmacy. With that being said, I'm also going to assume that you understand your competitive advantage in the marketplace. This essentially is a story that we tell over and over again in our messaging. And while the marketing message for your pharmacy is not something that a lot of pharmacists think about because maybe they're too busy running the pharmacy, or they're constantly with patients, or they believe that that may be the role of someone else, maybe sales, it's still critically important that you know how to effectively communicate excuse me, the advantage that you have within your pharmacy so that you can effectively help to grow your business and increase revenue. And to communicate well, you need to have a well-defined marketing message that differentiates you from the competition. And lastly, I'm assuming that you're dialed into this presentation because you have some role or investment in the marketing of your pharmacy, but maybe your biggest limitation to marketing is maybe not a lack of desire, but just limited time or manpower, people to help you get it done, or possibly even just a lack of financial resources. Maybe you don't have the budget to do big scale promotions. Well, that's okay, because you actually have a lot within your hands. There's a world of opportunity that lies right within your pharmacy. So let's go ahead and start talking about how we can assess the strengths of your pharmacy. I want to begin by encouraging you to look within yourself and your staff. The people who you have on your team are doing a wonderful job of providing quality care and services to your patients, and they know a lot about the products and services that you provide. I want you to think about what you yourself has as a personal gift, talents. Are there things that you are able to do outside of your job that can be beneficial in marketing? That may be a hobby that you have. If you're a creative person, someone who maybe has an interest in photography, maybe you have an eye for putting together beautiful images, or maybe you're really good at capturing candid photos of things that are happening. This is really helpful for things like social media or print ads, magazine articles. You don't have to hire out, but you can actually do some of that yourself. And I'll show you later in this presentation how we've done that for ourselves. I want you to also think about your staff and their aptitude for learning. You may have people on staff who are very excited to learn new technologies, or they just have affinity for picking up new ideas really easily. These are people that you want to empower to help with your marketing. Maybe you can task them with learning new social media outlets or picking up things like video editing. This may be something that they're already doing in their spare time. So it's really important to talk with your team, find out what they're interested in, and see how you can use them. Again, with yourself and your team, I want you to think about the social networks and personal connections that you have. This goes beyond business relationships, but the people that they know, possibly within their local PTA. It could be within their church. An example that I'll give you, we recently had a vaccine clinic where we were to service 2,500 people in one day. My husband is a member of a fraternity, and they do a lot of community service throughout different cities in Georgia. Many of the men within that fraternity are police officers, and they have an incredible skill for administration and trafficking events. So I called upon them to help us direct traffic flow and keep our event organized. This is not something that people would normally think to do, to call on an organization like that, but in a time of need for our pharmacy, they were a huge help. So again, think about those social networks that you have, that your staff has, or maybe if you have very close friends that are really involved in community organizations, pull on them. Another area that we can kind of look within to assess is our physical space, our pharmacies. What types of merchandising and displays can we use to help promote sales or to educate our customers about the services that we have? I want you to go beyond just the signs that are in the window and think about things that you can do, like placing digital signage on your front desk. QR codes are incredibly useful these days, and in the pandemic, we've all kind of gotten used to whipping out our phone and scanning a QR code to view a menu in a restaurant. Is that something that you could also do within your pharmacy? Maybe next to your products, you could print out a piece of paper that has a QR code on it. And within that QR code, they're directed to more information about that particular product. They don't have to surf online trying to get answers. And if your staff is too busy at that time, this is a wonderful way to control the messaging that's being directed towards your patients, because they're using messaging that's provided direct from you. Another way that you can use your space is for hosting meetings. Do you have providers who want to speak? And there's space allowed where they can have patients to come in and listen to training that they have available? Or do you have supplements that you want to teach on? Make a community event out of it. Invite people in to learn about the product services that you have by hosting meetings within your space. And then becoming involved in the community itself. There are probably hundreds of things going on that are going to be going on over the summer right within your community. Think about ways that you can get involved with that, whether that's through sponsoring or just showing up and volunteering your time. And then lastly, I want you to think about something that, may be a little out of the box, but is equally as important. When assessing your pharmacy strengths, think about the proximity or location that you have. Do you happen to be in a famous location? If you're located near or in an area that the city is constantly talking about, then piggyback on that media that's consistently going out to the world about your area and insert your pharmacy there. Let people know how you're helping to make that a great space. Do you have a unique or recognizable building that you're in or next to? I know that when I lived on the East Coast in Providence, Rhode Island, there was a bank there that was famously shown in the movie Ghostbusters. And they talked about it all the time. And anytime we wanted to help someone to understand how to get to the CVS pharmacy that was there, we would say, we're in the Ghostbuster building. So if you have a unique or recognizable space, play that up, talk about it often. And then in monuments or national landmarks, again, these are things that you want to be piggybacking on all of the conversations that are currently going on around these things, especially if there's a particular landmark or if there's, parks and recreations and things like that. Let people who are visiting those places know about all of the products that you have available to them, from your sunscreens to your bug sprays and things like that. Help them find reasons to come in and see you while they're visiting these locations. A couple examples that I want to show you here. When I talked about using the talents within your team, these are photos of people within our pharmacy, products that we have here that were taken by a pharmacist, actually. She has a wonderful eye for composition and takes beautiful photos that we use in the media. We use our portraits and headshots in our websites and on images that we create for promotions of our webinars and podcasts and things like that. And she just does a really wonderful job on the side with something that she loves, taking photos when she has time and submitting them to our marketing department for use. So I just want you to be encouraged that you don't have to spend a lot of money if you have the talent in-house. And surprisingly, some of these photos were even captured by an iPhone. So it's not even a DSLR camera. It's something that we have right here in-house. When I talked about using our physical space, when we decided that we would begin to distribute the COVID-19 vaccine, we looked around and we found that actually our parking lot was going to be a perfect space for a drive-through vaccine clinic. And so we had some signs printed, and you can see here, we marked off tape along the parking lot and made individual spaces where patients who had appointments could come, park within their space, receive their vaccine, and then go on about their day. It was really and is really an excellent way for us to use the space that we have. So now I just want to take a brief moment and kind of brainstorm according to the things that we've talked about. What do you have in hand? Maybe you have a piece of paper with you. Just jot down some notes. I want you to think about what you, yourself, or those on staff have, what types of skills and talents they have, what types of connections they may have that you can use to assist with your content development and the marketing that you're currently doing. It's going to be really helpful if you maybe just can identify 3 people. If you're not sure who these people are, then I want you to think about this. If you have someone who's excelling in an area that is constantly overperforming, say they're really good in organization, they have a skill for that. Maybe you could sit with that person and they could help you when it comes to organizing all of the different pieces of content that you have and creating a plan. You could use that skill of administration to help you stay on top of your marketing. Let's think about your physical space. I'd like to identify some areas of your pharmacy that are maybe underutilized or maybe need a little bit of improving so that they will promote your brand a little bit better, so that when people come in, they see quality in all aspects in every area, and also that they want to use your space. Like I said, potentially you may have people within the community or some of your providers who would like to use your space for teaching or conducting classes. If you have a wonderful conference room or lecture space, think about how you can use that. And then lastly, your location or proximity. What story can you tell about the location of your pharmacy? Or what stories are being told about the location of your pharmacy that you can piggyback on? Next, we're going to jump into how we can define our audience and message. As I mentioned earlier, to communicate well, you need to have a well-defined marketing message that differentiates you from your competition. So some ways that you can get to that are to survey your target audience and ask some questions. What are their points of pain? What things are consistently keeping them from accomplishing their goals? You have 2 different audiences that you're speaking to, your providers and your patients. What areas of pain are your providers experiencing? Are they having any issues in understanding all of the options that they have available? And how can you capitalize on that? Your patients, do they have any issues with time? How can you capitalize on that? Do you have apps? Do you have online ways that they can access you that maybe they're unaware of? I know within our website, we have an entire section dedicated to training tutorials for our patients. This was a point of pain. We're a compounding pharmacy, and many patients had never received a compounded medication before being sent to our pharmacy. Rather than having our team spend time on the telephones answering basic and common questions to us, we created an entire section of our website that has video tutorials. This is actually one of the most visited sections of our website, and it's extremely helpful for us. And that came out of asking this question of our patients. Another question we want to ask is, what concerns do you have? You know, we talked about earlier, we are one of the most highly regulated industries in the United States. What questions might providers have that we can answer for them, especially those of us who are compounding medications? I want you to think of all your areas of expertise. I want you to think of your pharmacists who specialize in areas, and I want you to create content that can answer those questions and calm those concerns. Also for your patients, what concerns might they have? Do they have concerns about timeliness of receiving their medications? How can you help with that? What pieces of content or what videos could you create to explain to them the process, what it's like to work with your pharmacy, and how you help to soothe all of those concerns? Here's another great question. What do you want to accomplish in your business for providers or in your health for patients? Knowing this is an excellent path to creating much of the content that we'll talk about later in this presentation. When you know what your providers want to accomplish in their business, it enables you to look across the landscape of the products and services that you provide and craft messages that are right on target with their goals. The same thing goes for your patient's health. Knowing what it is that they ultimately want to achieve in their health is going to help you to understand the things that maybe you need to bring to the forefront of display in your pharmacy. Here's another question we don't often think about, but it's good to know. Which brands do you trust or purchase from most often? I like to have a follow-up question behind that, and that question is why? Why do you trust those brands, and why do you purchase from them most often? Some of them might be popular. Some of them, it may be a matter of convenience. It's easy to access. But when you ask those questions, some people may tell you things like the service, the quality of the service that's provided. They might talk to you about price. They might talk to you about the longevity of that particular company being within their family. Maybe this is something that their grandmother used and their mother used and they use. And if that's the case, you want to know, what have those companies done to garner the trust of these patients, and what can you do to mimic that? And then lastly, how does the company gain your loyalty as a customer? This is a good question to ask because, again, these are the things that you want to make sure that you're doing and communicating repeatedly in your marketing. As we establish some goals for communication, I want to talk to you about the things that we can think about placing our focus on, okay? And I like to maybe target 3 of these and have everything that we do in terms of our messaging to radiate from one of these 3 goals. So number 1, a goal that you might establish for all communications, messaging that you have coming from your pharmacy could be to educate, to inform about products and services and how you can help. Another goal you may have simply to build trust. Maybe you want to develop connections that build trust in your offer. Awareness, making people aware that you're there and everything that you have. You simply want to promote the exposure of your pharmacy. That could be a goal. Another goal may be gaining media attention, publicity, getting into local trade publications, having articles written about you, being on the local news or even national. This could be a goal that you have for your communication. Establishing authority or positioning yourself or your pharmacy as an expert in the field or in the industry as a whole is another goal that you may have for your communications. And then you might have other things like increasing website visitors or increasing followers or churning up leads. These are all things that I want you to keep in mind as you're writing content, as you're developing strategies for marketing your pharmacy.
So in this segment of the presentation, we want to think about how we can prioritize the marketing channels available to us so that we can be the most effective in promotion of our pharmacies. These channels will include internet marketing, social media marketing, physical marketing, and paid advertising. Internet marketing is one of the most popular channels and includes our website, blog, email, or email newsletters, things like webinars, podcasts, SEO, and even ebooks. Digital display advertising and artificial intelligence tools like chatbots are also increasingly becoming popular. According to Pew Research Center, over 80% of Americans are online daily. A recent Marketing Profs report shows that 83% of traffic directed to blogs comes from a website and can account for 97% of inbound leads. Podcasts now reach over 100 million Americans monthly, and there are a great majority of listeners surveyed, 55% to be exact, said they've purchased an item advertised on a podcast. So a quick content audit, I just want you to think about where can you develop more content surrounding these areas. Maybe you can continue to develop connections and build trust in your offer through consistency in blogging. Maybe you could use an email newsletter to continuously promote products and services that are available at your pharmacy. Publicity and media attention is another great way that you can increase some awareness, promote authority, and drive traffic to your site. And also create leads. Examples from our pharmacy include our Innovation Institute of Online Learning. This is a series of educational programs that we designed to deliver information to healthcare providers across many different disciplines of practice. What we've done is invite thought leaders and experts in their field of medicine to cover specific health conditions in the form of web-based learning. Our first webinar was created in participation with a doctor of sexual medicine and a board-certified OBGYN, Dr. Michael Critchman. He offered a 6-part webinar series that spanned from September 2020 to February 2021, and we had 197 registrations to our first webinar. Our Mix It Up Pharmacy podcast is another item that we create actually in-house. And going back to my points about capitalizing on the talents within your pharmacy, our pharmacy team actually pours a lot of their personal passions and education into our podcasts. Specifically, Dr. Tara Thompson conducts a podcast called Just Ask, and it covers women's health conditions like sexual pelvic pain, and she co-hosts that with a local nurse practitioner. They interview different candidates monthly to advocate for women's health issues and conditions, and they encourage patients to ask their questions through email or their social media channels. So it's really been a great way for us to connect with people online. The social media marketing channel offers us what seems to be limitless possibilities for promotion, and it includes platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, video sites like YouTube and Video, search and user reviews or recommended sites like Google My Business, Bing, and Yelp, are also great tools. And then live video streaming that you can do across some of these platforms is excellent as well. Surprisingly, sites like Pinterest, TikTok, Snapchat can be of great benefit for promoting sales within your pharmacy when you're targeting younger audiences or working with influencers in those social platforms. Examples from our pharmacy that we do, again, many in-house using the talents that we have, are our social media posts to promote our products. As you can see across this top line here, we use a tool called Canva, and you can reach that at canva.com. And that allows us to pop in images of our products and then lay them over top of images that they already have created. We just type right over it, our messaging, and we have beautiful images that, again, are created in-house to promote through social media. I mentioned our Innovation Institute of Learning. That's something that we promote throughout our LinkedIn page primarily, but also our Facebook and Instagram to drum up registrations monthly. And so these are just some really easy things that we do in-house that lead to big success for us. So again, when you're prioritizing your marketing channels and thinking about social media marketing, and you're thinking about how you might want to educate, build trust, drive awareness, create publicity, show authority, or increase traffic, I would love for you to revisit these slides for some tips and areas of where and how you can do that. The physical marketing, paid advertising, and public relation channels may be more familiar to you because they encompass more traditional methods of advertising, like printed publications, radio, and television. But I want to expand on some of the hidden opportunities that lie within these channels because there's so many things that your team can do that can be really fun and executed without major budgets or effort. As a priority, the areas I'd like you to consider are your packaging, the signs within or on the exterior of your storefront, patient brochures and packaging inserts. What about your on-hold messaging and IVRs? Our Google My Business page directs hundreds of calls to our pharmacy each week, and it's physically impossible for our staff to pick up the phone for each and every caller after the first ring. So we really take advantage of our voice messaging systems to help answer questions that don't require personal consultation. As a part of on-hold messaging, you can notify people of other valuable tactics in the physical marketing channel, like giveaways, promotions, free consultations, and reminders to request additional information that you provide about your pharmacy in the forms of maybe PDF booklets or ebooks or things like that. The paid advertising and public relations channels are an area where I recommend seeking some professional help and expertise because you'll want to carve out a budget to successfully broaden your reach. But those include things like direct mailers, print ads, social ads, ads across, your podcast and radio, maybe even some billboards, really good rates for billboard advertising. And if you have something near you, that might be something you'd like to explore, or affiliate marketing on your website or blog. Through public relations, those are some, again, traditional medias that you may be familiar with, like press releases, but speaking events and conferences and sponsorships of those events are also really, really helpful. So as we think about prioritizing those channels, again, I invite you to return to this or print this slide and think about the areas that might be most useful to you. Now let's try to put some of this into practice. If you could just pull out your pen and paper again, we can go through a quick exercise that can help you. And what I'd like you to do first is to think about what area, what audience needs the most attention from you right now. Are there specific providers that could benefit from you creating webinars or podcasts to answer their questions about how best to treat their patients? Are there things on your social media that you could use to target patients to help them ask more intelligent questions that can deepen the relationship with the pharmacist on staff and maybe promote some of your vitamin sales and supplements to help their health? What about messaging? What will be the primary focus of your messaging? I've just given some examples, but if you return to slide 14, there will be other items that you can think about there, and I invite you to take some time to think on this. And then over the next 90 days, I'd love for you to think about these 4 marketing channels and just identify 3 that you can really win in over the next 3 months. Okay, last but not least, our networks and connections. Leveraging our networks and community connections can lead to great success by instantly expanding our reach and resources. So I want you to remember to look inside to your patients, providers, partners, and staff, and to get involved with your community through local businesses, organizations like your small business associations or your chamber of commerce, to increase the likelihood of receiving the attention of local media outlets to all of these wonderful marketing channels and efforts that you have made. And with that, I want to thank you for taking time to listen to this presentation today. If you have any questions about the things that I've mentioned in this presentation, sending an email to me is a great way to connect, and I'd be happy to share with you anything that I can do or provide information about to help you in the success of marketing your pharmacy. So again, thank you so much for your time today, and I hope that you found this to be informative.